Hi, this is Adam Griel, and my project is on Dr. Maria Montessori, who was uh, really an innovator in early childhood education with a really outside the box way of thinking. Okay, so some background on Maria Montessori. She was actually the first woman in Italy to have a doctor of medicine degree. She worked with children in a psychiatric clinic. Most of these children were had mental disabilities, and through her method, which she developed while she was there, she was able to really uh, prepare her method, and she was able to see the um, fruits of her labor, if you will, when her students were actually scoring higher on the city entrance exams than normal students. And towards the end of her career, she eventually went to Rome and started her own uh, kindergarten and primary center for poor students. But at the end of her career, she ended up as a director for uh, UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So, for her philosophy of education, she really believed that the main purpose of education is the discovery and liberation of the child. So, she wanted the children to have the opportunity to research, experiment, and really make mistakes and learn and self-correct from them, with a big emphasis on freedom of choice. Uh, Students had she liked the freedom of choice because you know, children have a natural desire to learn the activities that they're interested in, and so if they're choosing what they want to work on, um, they'll have more likelihood of succeeding because they really have in that intrinsic motivation. And then she also avoided the extrinsic reward and punishment system from normal schools. So there was no golden stars or sticker sheets or anything like that. But there's also no punishing either. So because she believed that would um, ruin the intrinsic motivation to learn. All right, so three epistemological positions of Maria Montessori. The first would be empiricism. Um, this is from David Elkind, and he said that empiricism is the world exists quite independently of our minds, and we learn about it by, in effect, taking pictures of it with our senses. Um, so really, it's a teacher-directed and role learning approach. The difference here, though, is Montessori believes that the student is also the teacher, so they're really teaching themselves. The second one is nativism, which we are born knowing everything we will ever know about the world. So be like related to Plato and the Socratic method, where students are discovering what they already knew. And the third one is constructivism. So there's indeed a real world that exists independently of our senses, with the emphasis on hands-on learning, and emphasize that school is work, not play. So when students are doing activities, outside people looking in would think that they're just in there playing, but should always emphasize it as actually work. All right, so for the Montessori method, she actually never referred to her method as the Montessori method, but she called it scientific education or scientific pedagogy. Um, so it's actually the only pedagogical method developed and refined with the scientific method, with the focus on hands-on learning again, children having the freedom of choice, and comparing it to the traditional form of education, which really was formed because of the Industrial Revolution. Um, example of that would be the bells at schools were designed to reflect that of working in a factory. And so, when the day begins, there's a bell, and the day ends, there's a bell, and when they go on break, there's a bell. So they're really training students to be prepared to work in factories at that time. And the sensitive period, which is a big aspect of Montessori, she believed that children have windows of time when they are most apt at learning a specific skill. It can be learned later outside of the window, but it becomes much more difficult. So one example of that would be 8th through 12th grade. For me, I had 5 years of Spanish through those years, and I can't really speak any of it. But Tulsa Public Schools, which is the area where I live in, they actually have a program, which is a full immersion Spanish program for elementary students, which really shows that learning language earlier, you have more ability to really retain that information. And then a quote from Maria Montessori from The Absorbent Mind: "No matter what help and assistance he will get later in life, if he tries to learn a new language, he will not be able to speak it with the same exactitude as he does the one acquired in childhood," which really shows that that foreign language program at Tulsa Public Schools is really built on that. And for why I chose this topic, I have a 2-year-old son, and we've been giving him all sorts of the Montessori toys since he was a baby, and it's really amazing to see his development based on that. Of course, we didn't do too well with the praising stuff, because every time he does it, we're like, "Oh yeah, good job." So it's not full Montessori, but that's where I really first heard of Montessori. It was once my son was born. I'm a career tech, which is VOTech instructor. I teach automotive service, and so I have a real passion for hands-on learning, which is related to Maria Montessori also. With my automotive background, I get questions from students asking me, like, when did I learn how to do this or do that? And the reality is I've been working on cars since I was about 4 years old with my dad. So some of the stuff that I think is just, common sense, because I don't even remember learning it, is for them, they didn't grow up that way. It's not common sense. So that's one of the difficulties, but it also shows that, learning early certain things really helps retain it, like walking and talking. You don't really remember doing it, but remember learning it, but you know how to do it. So thank you. That's my presentation, and those are my references, and thank you.